Good morning. I've got an update on the robbery that happened yesterday. That's probably the one big thing that we have. But just to recap, it was yesterday morning, just before 4 a.m. We had a guy that left his car running, went into a convenience store in the 400 block of Northwest Avenue. There was another person that got in the car, tried to drive away with it. The owner saw that, ran out. There was a struggle between them. At some point, the suspect pulled out a gun, threatened the victim, and then used that gun and hit the victim over the head several times. The victim was able to get the car keys out, went back into the store, called for help, and then the suspect left. So when they arrived, there was 3 people that arrived in a car, 2 people left in that car, and the suspect that tried to steal the car left on foot. So we had that information. Detectives were able to get surveillance video, and that information was passed out to other officers. Had another officer that recognized the car that they arrived in, and that kind of snowballed things. And from there, they were able to determine who the suspect was. Yesterday, there was an arrest warrant that was issued for robbery, grand theft, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm by a convicted drug offender, and then committing a felony with a firearm. That warrant carried a $25,000 bond. Let me see if, I don't know if that was just a cash only or not, but let me just double check. Yeah, it was cash only, $25,000 cash only bond. And the sheriff's office just found him this morning. I don't have any details on that, but it was a little after 8 a.m. and he was found. I don't think there was any issue with the arrest, but he's now currently in jail and make his appearance. So we had those charges on that, and then had one other charge was parole violation. He's on parole, and so they wanted him held on that. And I think that's about it. Yeah, surveillance is, I mean, this is something that it's almost a, I don't say quite daily occurrence, but certainly when we have big crime, surveillance is, again, a big part in solving that crime. There's a lot of times surveillance cameras pick up what happened. In this case, the whole crime was recorded on surveillance video, and that led to directly identifying the suspect. So we had kind of a vague description. Without that surveillance video, it may have been difficult to track down and identify the suspect, but having that surveillance video was the key component in solving this crime.
One of your officers who recognized the vehicle?
Yeah, so one of the officers, that's actually a pretty common thing. We get a lot of surveillance video, a lot of different crimes, a lot of different suspects, and some of those we release to the public, but there's a lot more that the people don't see that gets released internally. And so that information, the pictures, are passed on to police officers, detectives, passed on to deputies from the sheriff's office, and even jailers from the jail. And we've got a great success being able to identify people just basically internally. And there's times when we're not able to identify somebody. That's when we'll release that information to the public and look for some extra help. But there's, as you can imagine, all the law enforcement in this area have a lot of different contact with people, and some of those people, they get maybe contacted more often than others. Sometimes they've committed crimes, sometimes they're kind of around that, but there's a lot of times that the officers recognize people, and then again, it all stems from that surveillance video of being able to get that video, find the suspects, and there's a lot of different ways that we have of identifying them. Okay, I'll give you his name. Last is Fralick, Fralick. First is William, William. Middle is Leroy, Leroy, and he's 33 from Sioux Falls.
You guys able to see in the surveillance video if, like, the struggle with the victim? Like,
Yeah, spelled out in the affidavit, but I was reading, I just had that just a little bit ago. But yeah, I think I don't know if you're able to see the assault on the video, but you can see the suspect get into the car. You see the victim run from the store to the car, and then at some point the victim leaves the car and goes back to the store. And so all of that matches up. The victim had some pretty serious injuries from being struck, and he didn't want to go to the hospital by ambulance, but he did receive quite a few staples and stitches to close his wounds.
So serious injuries, but non-life-threatening?
They were non-life-threatening injuries, yeah.
Were the other two people that were with him initially, were they charged with anything?
They were not charged with anything. Now, the other two people, I kind of touched on this yesterday, that a lot of the time these seem to be a crime of opportunity, and I think that's exactly what it was in this case. The other two went to go to the convenience store, and our suspect basically tagged along, and once they left the store, he just made some comment that he was going to catch up with them later, and he went to the running car, the victim's car, and then the other two got in the other car and drove away. So I don't think there was any plan, that they were planning on stealing the car. Good on that. Okay, on the log, I really don't have much. The aggravated assault, that was a domestic. Somebody was threatened with a knife. The other one assault listed involves juveniles. The burglaries, we had a home that was entered, a construction trailer, and then a garage. There was an attempt on that one. Nothing big from the disorderlies. The embezzlement, that was some items missing from a business. Family disputes and offenses were no contact, protection order, domestics. The frauds, we had a fake check, bad check, and then a fake or a ID theft. Not a fake ID, but an ID theft. Larcenies, most of those are shopliftings. We did have some other odds and ends that were taken. Narcotics, no big quantities on those. The simple assaults are domestics. And the vandalisms, we had a van that was damaged,